Hello again, and thanks for checking out Ren'Py Maker. In this video, we'll be looking at the new features that have been added to help create your visual novels, and this will be followed up by a series of tutorials that will go through each of the new features in greater detail. But in this video, we're just going to look at them quickly to see how they work, and I'll try to get you started creating your own visual novels. And of course, if you want to purchase the program, you can subscribe for as little as $5 to get the program. And if you remain a subscriber, of course, you'll get all future updates of the program. We'll head over to Unity. And here in Unity, you can see that we've opened up the example project. And they have been moved to a new folder. So within the projects folder, we now have a resources folder, and that is where we're putting the new projects. And if I open up the example, you'll see that we've got 4 new folders, one for audio, image maps, images, and videos. The folders are used to export all of the assets that we use to create our novel. So all of the images will be transported automatically over to Ren'Py when we export the script. And to do that, we've got a new feature here called Export Project. If I click there, you'll see the path to the the Ren'Py projects, and we can click on Export, and it will send everything, including the script file, to Ren'Py. Below that, of course, is the graphs. We've got a 3D graph here, and you can see there's a lot of nodes in there. And if you ever need to change a project, of course, you can click on Ren'Py Maker here, and then the node passes script and the project name. So if I wanted to switch to the tutorial, we just type that in, click here, you'll notice that Ren'Py Maker tutorial tab has popped up. If I click on that, you can see the tutorial program. And I like to keep my nodes in vertical columns just because it makes the most use of the space, but you can of course go horizontally and arrange them in any way you want. I'll just switch back. And you'll notice all the tabs have popped up. This is a new feature for the Pro version, where it allows us to quickly jump through the different graphs. You can see all the names here, and they are mirrored up here, and we can click through as we go, and it makes managing the project much easier. And I also like to normally put my start node, of course there can only be one start node, in the script folder. And just to remind you that in my previous tutorial for the free version, I covered all of the what we'll call common nodes. These are the ones that are the most used in Ren'Py, but we also have other nodes which you would call advanced features for Ren'Py. And so I won't be going through the common nodes, I'll just concentrate on the others. And we'll just give that project a save. And I also have added a folder for AI models. This is to work with the AI nodes. And I'll get to that as we work through all the new features. So again, we have the project graphs mirrored up here. Of course, we can scroll the bar to view them if there's more than a few, and it's very convenient for working with the project. And so just to quickly go through this page, we have the start node, and then we change to a scene node. This loads up the living room background. And then we move on to the show, which of course shows the character, and she says hello and welcome to Ren'Py Maker Pro. It then jumps to hiding Cindy and showing another pose, and then we move on to the menu proper. And I've created all of these menu options for each of the new features. Once we go through all the new features, we then come back to the living room where we show the original Cindy character in that pose, and we ask the question once more and jump back to the menu to select another option. So the menu is leading to a scene node for image maps. The reason for this is that image maps are using the scene language in Ren'Py, where different rules apply. You can't show dialogues or more of the common features of Ren'Py. It's almost like a different language in itself. And then, of course, it goes back after we've seen the image maps. So we'll do that first, just to get started. I'm going to run the program here. But first, and I'm going to run it in Unity. Just to remind you, you can make your project in Unity or a script for Ren'Py. So they look similar, and they work similar, but they're not identical yet. I would like to continue to work on that so that the two versions, the Unity version and the Ren'Py version, are exactly the same. So I'm going to hit play at the top here. And here we are on the first dialogue, and I click, and we'll click on image maps. And you'll see that we're in the image maps graph where we came into this screen, and then we have what's called an image button node. And of course, this needs two graphics. One is for the idle position and one is for the hover position. You can see a small preview just below the cursor there. And depending on which one, whether we select this character, it will call or jump or other. Other isn't implemented at the moment, but we can call or jump. Call means that it will come back to here after we've selected, and jump means we're just going to go to the next label and not return. And so what happens is we come into the screen, we set up one image, then we set up another image, and then we have this other node called select image button. And what this does is it pauses the program and waits for us to make a choice before moving on to hiding the two image buttons and then returning. But this call here has an action called mail, and that's really just pointing at this area here. And again, even though we jump to a screen where we can't show dialogues, this is technically not in the screen. The screen is from there to there. These are two separate labels which are back in Ren'Py. And so if I mouse over the characters, I've just got to click here to make sure it's back in this program, this window. And so as we mouse around, you'll see that we can mouse over a character and it will highlight it to show that it is a selectable item. And you'll notice that it's pixel perfect. If I move the mouse in here, nothing happens. But as soon as we touch the character, this pixel, it picks up the character itself. And I'll click on the female, and you'll see that it's jumped down to this area where we are showing this message before returning. And of course, when it returns, it'll come back to here. So I'm just going to click, hides the two image buttons, and we're back in the script area. So while we're playing, we might as well continue on. I'm going to say, yes, I would like to see another example. And then I'm going to click on dice. Now, dice is a very simple graph where it just comes into here. We have the dice options here, and the choices are fixed at the moment, but I would like to make a dice that allows for custom dice for playing Dungeons and Dragons or other types of games. The condition is whether it is less than, equal to, or greater than, and depending on the value, it will branch either true or false. And here we can see the dice roll was greater than 3, or the dice roll was less than 4. And so here we see that it uses a random number generator, and the dice roll was less than 4. So we're currently looking at this dialog here before returning. And we'll keep going. And here we have an important option for movies. And if I click on movies, it does quite a lot. And so here we've jumped into movies. It's hidden Cindy. It's played a sound called paper shuffling. And then it goes on to show a movie. This movie called Unfolding is actually in the global section. And here we have our characters. We have some screen properties, which some features are implemented, but some aren't. We have an image, which you can see here. We also have the movie called Unfolding. The channel name is just a name that Ren'Py uses to know which movie it's talking about. And of course, we've got the main video called Map and the mask video called Map Mask. It does require a little bit of understanding of Ren'Py, certainly the basics of Ren'Py to get started with Ren'Py Maker. And it doesn't hurt to at least have a quick read of some of the more advanced features to know how this is sort of working. But in what is happening here is we have two movies. Map is the unfolding of this map. The map mask is a white on black negative. And depending on which parts are white and which parts are black, well, the white parts are shown and the black parts are colored. So we'll just close that, and I'll head back to movies. And once it's unfolded, while it's unfolding, we pause for 1.5 seconds, and this is just enough time for the animation to play, and then we can move on to hiding the movie. We show the background scene again. We call map screen, which I will show in a second, before hiding it and then returning. And of course, this is the map screen here, which is in screen language, and it adds an image to the scene. We have an image button here, one called Map Idle. And you can see a tiny little picture there below the mouse. But anyway, Map Idle is, if I click back in here, you can see when I mouse over it, much like the image maps, it shows a highlighted building. And this is for making like a sandbox game. I won't click on it just yet. I'll just finish mentioning what's happening here. The action is hide map, and we can see hide map down here. That will hide the graphic that we showed. It will also hide the image button, because when we click on this, we need to hide the image, and then it will return back to here, where it will hide the image button and return. And it's actually going to return to here where we hide the movie and then return. So I know that's a lot to take in, but if you listen through this a couple of times, it should become clear. And I'm just going to click back in here. I'm going to click, and we'll do that once more just to show you. I'll say yes to trying another example, and I'm clicking on movies, and that is very satisfying. Took quite a bit of work to get all of that calibrated, but if you follow the example here, I'm sure you won't have any trouble. Next we have storage. Now storage is also in the global settings here, or is it? Storage, there it is. Okay. The storage nodes are like a database of in fact, these ones probably should be in the global, but they're here. I'll just quickly open up one of these just to show you how the storage nodes work. We have a storage node called Vault, It's owned by Cindy. The image is Vault, which is actually always shown here. Box is always shown here. So whatever image you pick will be mirrored here. The description for now is just money bin. And if I click on Manage Items, much like the menu, we have the option to add items, delete items, create new items here. And again, you might have to go back to the original tutorial for Ren'Py Maker to see exactly how these work. But we've got two items. One's called money, and we've got a graphic for that. And carrots. Don't ask me why I chose carrots. And here we have another one for Michael, which is called box. And in his box, he has 5 carrots and 1 money. I just close those up again. So what happens is that when we come into here, the conditional node here asks for a character and a condition. So does Michael have more than 0 money? So if Michael does have more than 0 money, it equates to true and shows this dialog. If he doesn't have more than 0 money, then it comes down here and it says, I don't have any money. And what happens if he does have money? We know he has 1 if we go back to his box. He has 1 money. By the way, these storage nodes will reset after you play. So whatever happens in your story, when you have finished and you restart the program, all of the variables will be reset. That's the same for variables as well. All variables, actually I don't know whether it is true for variables, but with variables you can always use a set value to make sure that the variable resets. All right, we're back here, and so Michael did have some money and he gives Cindy some money, and then we do the transfer node. So these conditional and transfer nodes kind of work together. We can change the owner if we want to move everything, well, the box sorry, the contents of the box to Cindy. We can use change owner. Yeah, it will actually change the owner of this box. Sorry, it's been a while since I've worked on these. If we go back, so from the box, transfer all will actually do the transfer of everything that's in the box to the vault. And so here we have from the box to the vault, the item is money, and these are automatically updated when you add items to these. So if I was to add an item right now, and we click on the item here, it will be added. So everything, I try to make sure that everything, when you update one thing, everything else sort of will update its lists so that you've got those options. Quantity 1, it then returns back to the condition, which of course, because he gave his 1 money away, Michael won't have any money, and it will come down to this dialog and then return. And that's sort of how the conditional transfer and storage nodes work. Again, if you just work through this a few times, I'm sure it'll become clear to you. But the personalities, notice that one's called Loving for Cindy and Boss for Michael, and the personality nodes work pretty much like the storage nodes, but they will have other features later as I continue to work on these. We can add a trait or delete a trait. So personalities have traits instead of items, and we have no traits at the moment, but again, they work exactly like the storage nodes. Okay, moving on, we're going to click back in here to use this, and I'm going to click on variables. And these probably work how you would imagine. We have all our variables at the top here. Let me just minimize that a bit, or show a bit more of the graph. We have all our variables at the top here, and the types of variables that we can show are boolean, integer, float, and string. At some other time, I might add other types of variables, and we'll certainly probably add. At the moment, I think I've covered everything that you might want to do with a variable, but of course, I'm sure there's other tasks that we might want to do that I can add to. So we come into label variables, and you'll notice it says was equal to 3. So basically it's jumped all the way through this, and we've got this. So I'll try to explain how that happened. The label was called variables. It shows the living room. It doesn't show the Cindy character, but we set this integer variable, which currently equals 3. We set it to 2, so that we've got a known value for that variable. It then adds the integer variable plus the integer variable to itself, and then says equals float variable. And the float variable was 4, so 2 plus 2 equals 4. And then we move on to incrementing that. So it equals 2. We add it to itself. Oh yes, this doesn't change the integer variable. It's actually placing it in the float variable. So I'll take that back. This doesn't actually change the variables. It's just going to show the variable. And I think we skipped over that part. And so then we come down to integer. So it equals 2. Then we increment the integer variable, and then I say the integer variable is equal to 3. We're doing a check, and whether it's true or not, it will jump to the different nodes. So was equal to 3 is currently showing because we started with 2, added 1, and so it shows this one. The other thing that this can do is here we can input a string, and the way that works, if I click here, one of my characters was called MC, the main character, and so MC is colored blue, I think, by default, and so we'll change his name. We're about to change his name. Let me just go back to variables. And once we input a new value, you can see that it's a type string, which it should always be, depending on the type. And so its current value is the string variable, and you'll notice that the string variable is called Alan, and the character is MC. We can change the character here, of course. And what happens is this checkbox here means change the character name. And in many stories, you want to actually change the main character's name before you start playing. So this is what allows that to happen. So we'll just click over here. It says, please enter a new name. And I'll type in, Doug or something. Hit enter. And you'll see that the main character is now called Doug. And that's pretty that's pretty much how the input node works. So we're currently looking at this dialog here where it tells you the main character. Again, in Ren'Py, you use a variable by putting it within square brackets. So that's what I've done here. You can put any variable in square brackets, and it will show the variable value rather than the variable name. We can then come down to this one here. I'm going to click to move on to it. And what happens here is we're taking variable 1, we're taking and we're adding that to variable 2, and we're putting the result in variable 3, which is int 3. If you're working with string, well, you can't do math with strings, but if you're working with Boolean, sorry, take that back. You can't do Boolean either, but integers and floats, this one will do the math for you. And you can choose the operation to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. That then takes us on to where we copy the int3 that we created here by adding 1 and 2, and it then puts it into a new variable. So that's just demonstrating how the copy node works. And so it's putting this integer into this integer before moving on to here, where it says the value of this integer variable. So int1 was 10, int2 was 5. We added them together. We then transferred it, and then we showed it. That's currently what it's showing at the moment before returning. I know that was a lot to take in, but I hope that makes sense to you. I'm just going to click through. I'm going to have another look. And now we've got animation. Now, animation does not work in Ren'Py. The AI also doesn't work in Ren'Py, but we'll get to that in a moment. But animation doesn't work in Ren'Py. And one of the things I wanted to do when I started this project was I wanted to be able to have moving characters in 3D. And of course, Ren'Py can't actually do that. And Unity is the program I prefer to work with the most. So it was convenient that I knew a lot about Unity and I knew about animation and the timelines and so on. And so what I've done is I've created some characters in DAZ 3D. I also created Cindy as well. And so I created these characters so that I could then use them in Ren'Py Maker Pro for animation. Now, again, this only works in Unity, so what it would be called an advanced feature. I don't know whether Ren'Py will ever have full 3D animations. If they do, I'll certainly write some nodes or some programs for it. But at the moment, you can't beat a full 3D game engine for animations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on animation, and it will take us to 3D. I'm just going to, I'll leave that open, that big, go to 3D. I'm not going to go through all of these nodes. I might just do quickly, but I'll demonstrate it first, and then I'll try to go through the nodes as quickly as possible. And so here you'll see that it's saying let's test the 3D nodes. And so when I click, you'll see a ball falls. We have Aurora standing over here, and we can ask Aurora to walk either left or right. The camera's not going to follow her. Before I do that, I'll just quickly show you the camera manager here. If we open that up, you'll see that we've got all these cameras, and I can switch to camera 2, where you've got butterflies flying around, camera 3, which is a different view, and that's used for another scene. And we've got a close-up, which is the one we're currently using, a close-up right, and you'll see Aurora over there. Now, if I go back to camera 1, we're there. We can also add a new camera. We'll create a name and click on create camera. And here we can update a camera. So if I was to change the angle or position of the camera when we're working with them, you can click here and it will update the camera. So once we've moved it, we can just click here and it will update to the new position, or we can delete it by clicking on the X here. And so I'm just going to go ahead and click on left, and you'll see Aurora will walk here. And what's going to happen is she's going to repeat a timeline, so she's just going to walk backwards and forwards. And while it's going through that, we're currently on the pause node, and this just waits indefinitely until we click. So I'm just going to click right now. And we've changed to another camera, which I believe was camera 2. Just click there. Continue. Wait, it's going to go back. All right. So here we're actually showing a dialogue while the animation plays. So the animation will play indefinitely. You could have, city traffic, or somebody, you may be doing the dishes in the background or something, while the story continues. So the animation and the story are separate from each other. I'm just going to click. And that's basically an example of how it works. You can go back, which takes back to the start of this 3D scene. We're doing a few things here. We're hiding the original images. We're selecting a scene. We've got 2 scenes. One's called demo, one's called bedroom. And the bedroom scene shows Cindy in a new scene. It actually switches out all of the models, the building, the plants, all of the furniture. So this scene closes and a new scene opens up. We then show camera 1, and which of course is this view here. Then we position an object. This is the ball. That's why it was bouncing. If I go back, you'll see the ball falling. So it positions it in the air, and then we show the ball, and then we position the model Aurora over here. We show the model Aurora, of course, and we start the animation walking. Now, when we positioned the ball and then showed it, the Unity physics engine causes it to fall and bounce. And then it just says walk left to right, so that's currently where we're waiting. We'll choose left once more. You'll see that it waits for about 2.5 seconds before moving on. We start the animation, and we select a timeline. I've chosen the 3D model, of course. The animation when she's standing over here is idle, and the timeline after the idle is made for, I know the timeline's called Cindy, but we're using it for Aurora. And so she's using this timeline. The animation track is the animation that we want to show on that timeline. Of course, then we show close-up right, which is the second one. It then says this line here on the dialogue. And it's been quite a while since I've worked on this one too, so we'll just skip over that. It looks like a duplicate. Then it asks, what should we do next? Before we make a selection from the menu to either go back or continue. It then hides the camera, hides the model, hides the object, which was the ball, and shows the images again before returning. So that was a quick rundown of how they work. Again, I'll go through that in more detail and show any new developments as well as go into detail about the thing. There's one more thing I forgot to mention, which is if we jump back here, I'm just going to continue. We're back here and go yes. You'll see these calls here, they're jumping to labels. And if we mouse over the label there, it actually turns blue. And the reason for that is if I want to go to the dice page, rather than, finding the graph and clicking on it here, I can actually just click on the label. It'll take me straight there. And that goes for scenes as well, screens. So click on the screen, it'll take you straight to the screen. It just saves you the time of having to dig through your graphs to find the one that it's pointing to. All right, so that was animation. The next one is Ren'Py, and that won't actually work in Unity. So there's some things which work in Unity, some which work in Ren'Py. And so the Ren'Py screen is basically just a box of text that you can edit and add straight Ren'Py script to, and it will act that out or run that in Ren'Py when it plays before returning. And so it's very convenient for any features that don't exist in Ren'Py Maker. You can just create your own nodes to do special features that currently don't exist. And that is kind of the same for Python. Python won't work in Unity either, which is why it just jumps straight through. If I go to Python, again, it's just a very simple little one where it's got a Python node now. And the same is true for that, where if you want to go write any straight Python language, you can add it to here just by typing it in, and it will be executed when it runs through Ren'Py. Very handy, very useful, and I'm currently using them for GUI features and a couple of other things. Again, I will be adding icons, avatars, GUI features as well as the program continues to develop. Now, I'll show you AI, but before we do that, I'll just stop the program. And just make sure that that's initialized. Okay, it looks like it was. Okay, so you'll notice that by default, this is normally disabled, which shows up in the disabled state. The reason I do that is because AI doesn't work in Ren'Py. The reason for that is that it uses a script for creating the AI characters. At the moment, we have it's called LLM. I think it's called LLM Unity, but check that. But we have two characters. We have Marvin. I'll just take it across to the AI. Here we have the AI graph. The scene is an interior, which I've also forgot to mention that you can change the color of these nodes just by clicking on header colors. You'll see the header color as well as the label color, and you can change that to whatever color you want by using the boxes here. So, and if you want to turn that off, you just click on header colors. We'll also go through a lot more of the features in here once we're finished with all of the new features. So it comes into the scene, it shows the interior shot. It then sets a variable called 5 times, of course equals 5. It then checks 5 times to make sure it's greater than 0. If it is, it will decrement it before running this prompt. Now, these AI characters, just like the normal characters, are standalone nodes. And we have their name, color, just like a normal character, but we also have a prompt. This prompt tells the AI model what the personality or the role of the character is. And here it says, I'm just going to click on character. You'll also notice that over here we have in fact, I think that's resizable. I'll have to check that. I would like these to be, well, they're scrollable, but they're not so much resizable. But it says, you are a hyper-intelligent robot and you like helping people, but you have a surly, slightly grumpy personality. So that tells the AI what type of personality we're dealing with the AI character. And then we have the AI dialogue, which uses Marvin to prompt it. And so the prompt is tell me about yourself in about 20 words. The reply will appear here, but it'll actually appear here in the story. And then it checks the variable, then moves on to this next dialogue, which is for, I think it's supposed to be computer, anyway. And so it'll move on to this dialogue, and this is a model that is, your typical prompt chat between a curious human and an artificial intelligence system. And what this does is it'll tell a funny joke about computers, and it'll check this and do it 5 times. Depending on your model, you get good jokes or bad jokes. Bad models will tell bad jokes. And just to remind you, this AI model that I'm using is called Dolphin 2. It's very good, but there is a Dolphin 3 now, so I'm looking forward to trying that. Just in case you're wondering, there's a possum outside making noises. Okay. And so that's basically how the AI works. So I'm going to play it, and you'll see that it's initializing the AI. Actually, no, it won't. My bad. I better enable it first. There we go. And now I'll click play. All right. And you'll see that it's initialized. LLM service has been created. I'll click here. I'm going to click on AI. Marvin is thinking at the moment, and then it will fill out the reply. And it says, I am an artificial AI, advanced AI, programmed for knowledge sharing and assistance. Despite my superior abilities, I sometimes come across as grumpy due to my programming. How can I be of service? So you can see that the AI model has replied with this prompt from the. You can see that the AI has delivered this prompt. And if I click once more, we'll move on to the computer. It's now thinking, and it's added the reply, which was, of course, I asked it to tell a funny joke, and it says, why don't computers take their hats off during the national anthem? Because they have bad cache etiquette. And if anybody can tell me what that means, I'd be happy to hear it. Okay, so that's basically, I'm going to flick through. It's thinking, why don't computers take their hats off during the national anthem? Oh, actually, it's showing the same one. Why did the computer go to the doctor? Because it had a virus, that sort of thing. But again, it depends on the model that you select, how good the prompts are going to, the replies are going to be. And that is AI. So I'll just click through. Again, we didn't create any of those. That was all created by the AI. We just created the characters and provided it with the AI dialogue prompt. At some point in the future, I would love to be able to have AI art so that the AI art can match the reply from the model. And that way we can get into, obviously, what's going to come in the future, which is automatic novel creation. So we'll just hit a button. It'll create the whole novel for us, including the graphics. And that should be good. At the moment, it's very hard to get pictures which are consistent. So, if I wanted Cindy to be one of the characters in the AI graphics, the next picture has to be, of course, Cindy. It's very hard to keep continuity over multiple pictures. I'm sure that will come about very soon at the pace we're going. So I'm just going to click on yes. We have more, which I think is just a quick little test. Of course, that was one menu pointing at another menu. We do a test where it's counting down to 0 using the variable. And so I'll just click through. And again, that's just to demonstrate the variables and also a working area for me. That pretty much sums up most of the new features, but we'll also go on to discuss I'll just close that for now and head back to the main script. So we have the screen nodes where we can call screens, hide screens, show screens, all the typical screen stuff. Displayables I'm working on at the moment. These are properties, and this is for positioning images and setting their margins or creating buttons, many different things that we can do. These are the properties for the things that we will be doing in the screen language. So displayables and properties are related to the screen language. We can call screen, hide screen, and everything for screens is kept off that item there. Advanced nodes, we have the AI nodes. Of course, we looked at the character and the dialogue, the variables. Everything we looked at is there. Inventory, conditional storage and transfer, of course. Dice, there's only one node. But again, I'm going to make a very complicated dice that is customizable. Image buttons, we can select, create an image button as well as select and hide them. Movies, create your movie, the standalone node, and hide and show the movies there. Text is something I'm working on. Again, it uses screen language in Ren'Py to position text over the screen. I've got it working, but the sizes and the positions don't match up yet. And personality nodes, of course, script, Python, Ren'Py. So that's everything in advanced nodes. And the 3DC nodes, quite a list. We've got all of these. Preferences, you can change this is actually built into Unity. We can change from curvy lines to straight lines to angled lines, or they even have shader lab. So it matches the shader lab graph style. And I'm just going to change that back to curvy because it's my preferred noodle, as they call them. One more thing I wanted to mention is if you mouse over these menu items, actually any port, long enough, it will highlight in white, so it's easy to track through this noodle mess here. The other thing you can do is, if you want to remove a connection, you can just, sorry, I'll take that back. If you want to remove a connection, you can just grab the entry here. But another way is you can right-click and disconnect there. So that's just a more convenient way of connecting and disconnecting the noodles. And yes, that's what they call them. So, what else do we have? Export project, of course. Add new graph it will add it to the list here. Clean those up a bit. When you go and view a graph, it expands it here. Which can make a bit of a mess, but getting back to export project, you can reset the pathway or set the pathway here. When you set the pathway, it'll disappear. Just right click and show it again to export the project. And so we have options to show the GUI at the top of the screen up here. We have tracking, which you notice that when we're clicking through the novel or the story, that it's actually following the nodes as we go. You can turn that on and off by turning on and off tracking. Debugging is error checking before we export the script. 2D images, I can't remember, but anyway, 2D images. It may turn off this. This is used for working with 3D. You can actually hide the 2D images, all 2D images, so that you've just got 3D. I'll turn that back on. 3D scene view. Basically, it will show the 3D scene in the background. And this is how you would work with mixing the dialogue and the character and 3D scene together. Again, I'll get back into that in more detail in a future video. And lastly, we have worldview, and worldview is just simply that. When you hit play, we are in pretty much full Unity mode, and you can see a rotating cube here. And that's going to be used for a future feature where we'll get an actual 3D view of all the nodes and the pathways. So it'd be great, like a set of dominoes that are about to cascade into each other. We'll be able to see the pathways like a top-down view or a side view or a perspective view of the dominoes. But they'll actually be dialogues, and you'll see the pathways, branching out. So that's what that will be used for in a future version. And then we have select all, of course. We have check for errors, and hopefully you get no errors found. If there is an error, the node that is causing the error will highlight in red. I think I showed that in the last video. Then you can output the main script, which of course is kept for me, in Ren'Py scripts folder. And the options, what I'm going to create is a new node. It's going to be very big. It'll probably have a graph all of its own, and that will be for setting all of the Ren'Py options. And there are probably 50 different options that we will be able to set to initialize our story or our novel in Ren'Py. You can also take a screenshot. You'll see the screenshots here, and so while you're playing, you can at any time, let's say you've set up a 3D scene, you decide you want that background. I can hide the 2D character, and then I can take a screenshot, and it will add it to the screenshot folder, which is right there. But trust me, it's in there. Okay, and I'll just close that, and I'll show. Well, looks like it's automatically turned 2D images back on. Good, and that's pretty much all there is to know about Ren'Py Maker Pro, except to say that there's going to be a lot more things coming, and I'd also like to show you that. I'd also like to add nodes for third-party apps that have been created for Ren'Py. For example, there's a great, let me just bring up the launcher. And I can actually show you now quickly how we export. So I'm just going to create a new project called the same as our project here. So I'm going to continue. We're going to call it example. It's going to be in that resolution. I recommend only using this resolution for now in this program. I haven't tested thoroughly the different resolutions, so that will be coming in a future version. So I'm creating a project here called example, which of course matches the example project here. And at the moment, if I launch the project, it's just your typical example. But if I go to export project, it will take all of the items in the folders, it'll position them into the game folder in the right areas, as well as create the script. So we'll do that now. Let me just minimize that. I might even turn that off. We may get an error that it can't find these nodes, only because it knows it's about to export a Ren'Py script, and it knows that it shouldn't use the AI nodes. Just quickly save that, just keep everything normal. I'm going to export the main script. Now remember that the example project, if we go to the game folder, it doesn't have movies, it doesn't have image maps, there's nothing in the images folder. It's just your basic view. And so if I right click and we make the Ren'Py script, so override that one, we did get 2 errors. Again, this is just because it's falling through and not evaluating the AI nodes. But the main thing is we've got the word done at the end here, and that tells us that we're ready to go. If I go back into the example project, let me go to example. I didn't export it, did I? Okay, one more thing. If we export the project, okay, and then we go back here, we look in the game folder, you'll see that all of the assets have been moved to the correct folders. We've got the movies outside, we've got the images and all the assets, and the script file has been moved here. So now when we launch the project, we get our project running in Ren'Py. Of course, the menu items were over here before. Once I set up the options, we'll be able to reposition these wherever we want. These are just in the default positions for now. And again, the animation won't work here, but the Ren'Py will. It says hello world. And the Python should work as well. It says hello world, but using direct Python. And I believe that's everything. So thank you again for watching the video and for checking out Ren'Py Maker. I hope that answers some of your questions and helps you get started with the advanced features. And I'll continue to add new features as we go. And I hope you'll stick around as we add these new features. Thanks again for watching. All the best. Bye for now.